Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 33, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. This is 3D knitting, very exciting. This is from the Carnegie Mellon Textiles Lab, and it is creating solid things out of knitting. Yes, of course you can knit things in 3D, but generally you have to put stuffing in it to create like a teddy bear or whatever. This actually uses solid knitting. So the machine is pretty gnarly, lots of gears and stuff. You definitely don't want you to put your fingers in it, but it creates these solid knots, but obviously in these patterns. Very complicated thing to do, so well done to the algorithm for doing that. The ultimate goal here is you create objects like you can see in front of you, but possibly also furniture and that sort of thing. They're also talking about if they can get it down to 2 pieces of cord as well, then you can just pull it apart when you don't want it and start again. And also they're trying to miniaturize these machines so we can all have them in our homes and create our own shoes and furniture. So there you go, sustainable 3D knitted furniture. Who'd have thought? This is Mindful Scroll. It's a really good idea, and this is really taking aim at endlessly scrolling social media, sort of addictive doom scrolling. And it basically uses scrolling to tackle itself, really. So what it does is it slows the whole thing down and uses it for a good, mindful purpose. So click on the link below. It's free, only works on mobile, so it basically detects if you're on a mobile or not. And what you do is you just keep scrolling and you just keep colouring in. So it takes its cue from those mindful adult colouring book things, and that's all you do. So the colors change when you fill each one in. Sometimes the texture changes of what you've done, so there's a little bit of a reward. If you try and do it quickly, if you try and speed it up, then actually the cursor gets smaller, so it actually is harder to fill in. So it actually rewards you to be slower, to be more mindful, and basically takes back vertical scrolling for a good thing. So if you find yourself addicted to social media apps, then maybe put this in your bookmarks. It is a good thing. DI2, if you're into your cycling, then yes, in the olden days you would have pressed your gear lever or turned your gear lever and your derailleurs at the back would have changed the gear. They would have moved the chain across. Well, that's all a bit old-fashioned now and has been for many years. When you've got things like DI2 electronic gear shifters, they're wirelessly controlled. So the front bit is just a wireless transmitter, the gears are the receiver, and actually vice versa because they transmit between each other, but it's a wireless system, and therefore when you say change gear, the rear hears through wireless signals to change gear. Now, a group of researchers have found that actually you can actually get into that signal. So you're thinking, kind of, that's interesting. It uses the ANT plus system communications protocol to do that. And they found that what they can do is they can record the actual signals and they can play them back, fiddle with them, and cause different gears to happen. So this is actually relatively serious in that if there is a peloton, they can choose one of the riders who's using DI2 and they can change their gears, potentially causing a crash, or they can actually just basically go after one of the riders and slow them down or speed them up, depending on what they want to do. The little bit of sort of data on the left-hand side is just showing you the packing information that's coming from these things. And the 8765431 is the gear selection. So all they do is they change that, they retransmit it, and the gear changes. So people like Shimano are aware of this, and they've already done a patch for it. But there you go. Who'd have thought that things like the gear changes like this weren't secure, but also that's a vector for attacks these days by hackers. There you go. Gears can now be hacked. This is bizarre. This is a new launcher, and this is, I'm going to read it. This is the fracture-driven power amplification in a hydrogel launcher. Basically what that means is it's a lump of hydrogel, i.e. it's gel made of primarily water. Inside there, they've got a 7mm disc of graphene, which is the super wonder material, 1 layer thick of carbon. And what you do is you point a laser at it, it heats up the graphene, it superheats it really quickly, vaporizes the water that's around it in the gel, and it exhausts itself through the bottom of the disc and therefore launches it up. It's a little bit like one of those funny poppers you used to get in the kind of the 90s, before they were banned, by the way, basically injuring children. But there you go. So this thing is 7mm across and actually launched itself nearly 2 meters into the air. So people are really excited by this because it's a new way of launching things. They were talking about potentially launching seeds. And by the way, it's actually based off, or it's inspired by squirting cucumbers, where they squirt their seeds, so to speak, by using this kind of technique. So yes, it might be used for military applications, of course, but they're also talking about sort of health things where you could actually use a way of either propelling something within the body or actually embedding into tissue to do certain things. There you go. Fracture-driven power amplification in a hydrogel launcher. Very exciting. This is by Max Roberts. Max Roberts is a long-term creator of transit maps, transport maps, and has taken on the classic 1933 Harry Beck London Underground. Now, my degree is in information design, so this is very dear to my heart, as is Max Roberts as well, and has updated a previous map that he drew about 10 years ago, 11 years ago or so. Runs Tube Map Central, so if you want to go and find out about it, go and link over there. There's a really good LinkedIn post about it that explains how and why. But here you go, it's radial, it's really interesting. Yes, you might think there's the tube symbol roundel in the middle of that, but apparently that's just coincidental. What I thought was really interesting was like, where do you start? So you just said, like, I just chose Tottenham Court Road, and it just kind of started from there basically. But there you go, really interesting. So this is the difference between topographical, which is a map that reflects reality and nature, or topological, which is you don't need to do that. It's just how do you connect the points in the most logical way. So this to me is a big piece of progress. It's slightly more topographically representative than the original Harry Beck topological map, if that makes sense. But these are always something that when they appear on my radar, I get very excited about, and hopefully you are too. It's taken social media by storm this week as well, so thank goodness people appreciate this stuff. This is a music video that was generated in 9 hours. So this is by the Butcher's Brain. I can't quite figure out who was actually behind that, but this is generated fully using AI in 9 hours. So lyrics by ChatGPT, song is by Suno. If you haven't visited that place, it will generate music for you. Midjourney and Comfy UI. The Comfy UI is the bit where you can kind of tell Midjourney what to do. And the video is then Runway ML Gen 3. Now, this entire thing is 9 hours, but there's some really interesting things. Of course, if you're really spotting that it's generated by an AI, things like text, everybody who holds up any sort of text, or if there's any sort of dollar bills, for instance, there were in there, any graffiti, any of the records, the logo on the caps, for instance, makes no sense whatsoever. But the rest of it is really interesting, and the music obviously is generated. Lots of questions about how it was trained for the music. Was it stolen? Was it not? But there you go. So this is the sort of thing that somebody can do in 9 hours from scratch, which I think is really interesting. I'll just be quiet just for a few seconds so you can hear it.
Like bad decisions, but hey, in this town, we all got our visions. Yo, it's twisted.
So there you go. That's what a AI-generated music video looks like. There you go. And raw dogging flight simulator. This is the and finally for today. Raw dogging is, I accidentally did this, by the way, the other day on a flight all the way to Atlanta, I think it was. It's a long flight, and I just didn't bother looking at any of the movies. I just looked out of the window and I looked at the back of the seat. However, strictly speaking, raw dogging, as defined by a TikTok craze, is when you just get onto the flight and you just look at the back of the seat in front of you for the entire duration. So why? Not really sure, but there you go. Thank you to Charlie Sutherland for the video that I'm using here. So if you go to Rawdog Airlines or rawdogsimulator.com, then it will allow you to have a go yourself. It sets a fictional flight and will basically just use your camera to make sure that you're looking at the screen. If you look away from the screen, then you fail. So here it is. This is me recording my go here. I'm going where, you know, just basically I'm just going along on an air flight. And when you look away, you got to just basically do that. If you manage to do the entire flight, you can get into the high score system and all that sort of stuff. So next time you sit on a flight, maybe you want to consider raw dogging. That means no entertainment, no devices, no food, no drink. So good luck with that. Done it once, didn't even notice it. It was okay. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, then maybe share it with somebody awesome. And I will see you again next week.